Time for cash tags. For that, let's bring in our next guest. That's going to be Megan Brantley, VP of Research at Lightfolio. Welcome back to the show, Megan.
Thanks for having me again, guys.
All right. Yeah, we've had you every day this week. This is awesome. The Swan brothers are ghosting us, I guess, maybe. But this is good discussion here. DocuSign, the stock's been kind of range bound over the last maybe 9-10 months or so. Do you guys have any data? It seems like they still continue to grow. Growth rate's starting to slow. Pandemic's over. But this is like a viable business plan or a business that continues to make money, and they're still growing. Megan, do you have any data that backs that up?
Yeah, so DocuSign is really this leader of digital contract management. And, you can think about this just from a normal consumer perspective from its e-signature services, but it's really trying to transition into all elements of contract lifecycle management. And this makes sense whenever you think about its kind of rise to fame and the era of the pandemic, because we were increasingly, remote and working from home and conducting business, not necessarily face to face. And there was this natural progression and natural transition to be able to conduct business without being in person, to do things digitally. And DocuSign was a tremendous beneficiary from this. And there's a degree of this that's sticky. We don't necessarily see a shift back, but we also don't see this massive catalyst for growth like that again. And I think that that's part of the cause for a bit of a stagnation in its stock year to date and a bit of a slowdown in its growth. Even last quarter, I think the company was touting its business stabilization. And as an investor, you want to hear about these growth initiatives. And so there are a couple different areas that we're looking at that could spark growth for DocuSign. One is the way that it's leaning into AI. It really wants to integrate AI. It just made an acquisition of Lexion to improve its contract services and its products to help improve workflow, help boost employee productivity. It integrates within platforms from Slack to Salesforce to Microsoft Word, just to make business life easier, which could spark growth. This is still really early in this cycle, though, I will note. But then also, we see some signs of improving market conditions whenever you look at even, mortgage applications rose in the last week. We're seeing pretty robust growth and interest in refinance rates as rates finally start to come down, which could benefit DocuSign. But at large, we do see some modest improvements. When we look at web visits to people who are utilizing DocuSign services, we see those up by about 6% year over year. Last quarter, that growth was about 3% year over year. So that's nice to see some momentum there. And so it will be interesting to see if that translates to the type of growth that investors would like to see.
Megan, is the sentiment around this company, and if you put up a 3-year chart, it looks a lot different than a 1-year chart, as you know, because it's got that $311 high. Is this just a story of the tortoise and the hare, right? It started out as the hare, and it was pandemic darling, and everyone rushed to it. And now it's more of a tortoise. It's just plodding along, growing at modest levels, making money, certainly profitable. And shouldn't we just look at it like that and understand that it's not the crazy grower, but it's also not going anywhere? Because once you do this in a contract, via medical or real estate or whatever, you don't ever go back to the other.
Yeah, I think that the stickiness factor that you mentioned there is really important, and this slowdown in growth is somewhat to be expected without a major catalyst like the pandemic prompting a major shift in consumer behavior. We do see stickiness in this digital asset management. And I think another thing that I looked at before I came on the show was some of its competitors. You can look at Adobe's competitive offerings, you could look at Dropbox's competitive offerings, but we simply don't see these in terms of mention volume, in terms of web traffic volume, on the same level as DocuSign. So DocuSign, if this is an area that you're trying to bet on, we see DocuSign as kind of the best long-term horse here in this theme. And so I guess another positive that you could say is that while there is certainly mounting competition, this doesn't remind us of, say, a Zoom, where we do see signs of really competent competition coming up. With DocuSign, we see DocuSign continuing to be the clear leader in this space. And it is nice to see some positive momentum. We're heading into this report, whenever we see web growth kind of leap up like we do this quarter versus last quarter, that could be a nice surprise, especially with the stock relatively muted over the last year.
Yeah, I kind of want to expand on that, the competition side of it, and that's probably why they've kind of stagnated as far as growth as Adobe and others are coming into this space or are in this space. But when you look at the happiness levels, you guys talk about that kind of data all the time. I mean, I've used DocuSign. Kevin, I'm sure has. It's awesome and amazing. Do we have decent, as far as metrics go there and data that goes there, is that still positive?
Yeah, DocuSign's happiness is high and it's stable, which is good. I know it's significantly higher than Dropbox's offering. Adobe is a little bit closer in line, but I think that both of those offerings only offer potentially a smaller fraction of the functionality and the potential use cases that DocuSign provides users. And I also think that long-term, especially if this company can actually leverage AI to improve its products, to help improve productivity, to make it easier to manage contracts and manage a lot of these kind of painstaking elements of business, this could really bode well for the company long term. It may be too early to see kind of return on those AI investments that the company is making, but it is positive to see the company making those investments and to start to see some momentum, at least on the web front, that there could be some growth this quarter, or maybe potentially looking forward. There may be some signs of positivity from DocuSign this earnings release.
Intelligent agreement management platform that they're rolling out using AI is supposed to be open up another maybe silo of revenue generation. But do you have an earnings score on this one, Megan, going into the report?
Yeah, heading into this one, we are cautiously bullish. Our score is a positive 31, so handily in the bullish camp. And part of that is because we do think that the bar is relatively low for DocuSign. And so we're listening for a solid report and hopefully some positive signs for guidance.
All right, great stuff, great data as always. And remember, Zoom video, I think you guys covered that with us also. That thing really popped post-earnings also. Yeah. And had been lagging. All right, great stuff. Thanks to Megan Brantley, Vice President of Research at Like Folio, for joining us.